Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Campaign season heats up. Mayor Harris issues a veto and much more tonight on Behind the Headlines. Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined tonight by a roundtable of journalists, starting with Toby Sells, news editor with the Memphis Flyer. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Sam Hardiman is a reporter with the Commercial Appeal. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Karanja Janaku is editor of the new Tri-State Defender. And Bill Dries is a reporter with the Daily Memphian. So we'll start, and I'll start with you, Bill. The campaign finance disclosures came out for what would this be, the second quarter. And we are really going into the campaign season now, particularly for mayor, and we'll start there, but we'll also get into a number of interesting things that are going on with the city council races, because there are a whole lot of people there. But the rundown of financial disclosures and the money raising. The headline has to be the near $1 million that Mayor Strickland, the incumbent, has raised, and the some 80,000-ish that both Tammy Sawyer has raised and that Willie Harrington, the former mayor, has raised. But what does that mean?
It means that the mayor has about $1 million that he's amassed since 2015 when he ran for mayor and upset incumbent A.C. Wharton. And he has said that he intends to spend all of that and that this is his last race and that he's going out by using the advantage that he has in terms of campaign finances. It doesn't necessarily mean an automatic victory, though. I know people like to believe that he or she who has the most money wins the race. That's not always the way that it works out in politics. It's how you spend the money. And Strickland has two challengers in former Mayor Willie Harrington and County Commissioner Tammy Sawyer, who have a disadvantage in terms of fundraising, but who are running very different campaigns. Harrington is running basically on his record as the city's longest serving mayor after 9 years out of politics. Sawyer is running very much as the exemplar of the new generation of activists who pretty close behind being involved in activist organizations, has been elected to the Shelby County Commission. So you have different campaigns, different dollar amounts, and we'll see what happens in October.
And it's interesting, Karanja, I mean, how much, when you look at, again, Strickland has a whole lot more money than the other two competitors, but Tammy Sawyer is able to go on social media and generate a kind of enthusiasm and a kind of following that is notable. I mean, and then Mayor Harrington has a long legacy, first African-American mayor, a lot of people who look up to him, a generation of politicians now who say, Dr. Harrington, led the way for them. How much can they do with what looks to be a lot less money? I can't imagine them, raising money to bridge that gap. But they've got this name recognition, enthusiasm in some cases that maybe makes up for that.
Well, how will they do that? That's the big question. I mean, that's what the race is about. They obviously have strategies, for doing that. I mean, if you ask Tammy Sawyer, she knew that she probably was going to be in this position right now in terms of the money. They both, all three candidates raised at least twice as much as they did during the first quarter. It's about connectivity, though, and your ability to connect and be able to get those people actually to the polls. I think Dr. Harrington is thinking that he's got some apparatuses in place that don't necessarily require the type of money that you might need to have coming out fresh. So, we'll see how that works. I mean, as far as Tammy Sawyer and the social media, yeah, the question is how widespread is that? It's definitely a social media lane that connects with the activists, but how far spread that's going to be, I don't know that.
I'll go to you, Toby Sells from the Flyer. The question I think I get asked a lot, and that I have, honestly, about former Mayor Harrington is he really going to campaign? he had declared a few times in some other races he was going to challenge Steve Cohen, but didn't really. I mean, he did run. He was on the ballot, but I don't think many people thought that he fought the kind of fight he had done back when he was running for mayor. What do you have some sense that is this the one where he really does step up and really go all in on campaigning?
I'm certainly no expert on it. What little I've looked into it, he has raised some money, as Bill said. He has a social media presence. And to Karanja's point, maybe he's working behind the scenes in ways that we don't know yet. I just have no idea as far as how he's operating.
Well, Harrington, if you look at his history, he's always been a different kind of candidate. Even in 1991, Harrington didn't do door-to-door the way that Strickland's been doing. Strickland's been doing door-to-door since late last year, and he's ramping up and clearly has a plan there. Harrington has never been a door-to-door guy. He's been an event guy who has big events, and a lot of people come to it based mainly on the huge amount of charisma he has and his penchant for saying what is on his mind. That's really been the way that he's drawn people's interest.
I'll bring you in here, Sam. I mean, the mayor is still mayor, but I mean, some people would say that Mayor Strickland has been running for re-election from the day he was elected. That it's been a 4-year re-election campaign. Maybe he's only been knocking on doors for a couple of years. How do you see it play out? I mean, if you're at City Hall every day or following the mayor around or doing things, how do you have a sense that they are an elected office that is campaigning, or are they more focused on the business of government?
I think the two go hand in hand. I mean, you have the power of incumbency, right? And so you're the only person, if you're Mayor Strickland, that gets to say, look what I'm doing for you right now. You are in the office and you get to point to, they'll often point to, the pension is fully funded, there's more paving, et cetera, et cetera. And while those are the necessary functions of government, that's also a reminder to voters of look what has gone on the past 4 years.
It was interesting. It was in that last week. I'll turn to you, Karanja. That Tammy Sawyer came out with a kind of social, more of an agenda, or she may disagree with this, but more than I had seen this agenda, this kind of social justice agenda, a tremendous amount of spending and activism on the part of city government into things, everything from pregnancy issues to education to reprioritizing. She says not spending more, but reprioritizing spending. That is a kind of message that gets a certain number of people really excited.
It does. It also gets a certain number of people concerned, because the question is, where does the money come from? And so what Ms. Sawyer is saying is that it's not going to require any type of sales tax hike, and that it's a reprioritization of needs, infant mortality, and things of that sort. And so we're going to find out if she's elected, if she can actually make that priority change.
I mean, the Memphis Flyer is a liberal-leaning, left-leaning paper. I don't think I'm breaking any news when I say that, Toby. Does that get the readership of the Flyer? I mean, her social justice, those kind of very social issues, the reprioritization, less about paving and basics or business development, and more about helping people and lifting people out of poverty. Does that get the readership of the Flyer excited and engaged?
I will say probably to that. I know certainly, though, that does fan her fan base, her voter base out there. When you're coming out the gate, you're not talking about paving and potholes, and you're talking about infant mortality. You're talking about, living wage and those kind of things. Those are the same issues that helped win her seat on the county commission. And that was a seat that a lot of folks said that she came out too early, maybe didn't have a chance to win, and she won it largely on social media. Came right out of the activist sphere there with the statues and all that stuff, and proved a lot of people wrong. So I think pressing on these issues could be a really strategic base. If she doesn't have the money, press on those.
Is City Hall, I'll turn back to you, Sam. I mean, do they respond to these proposals that Tammy Sawyer puts forward, or are they sort of ignoring them?
I would say that they're ignoring them. I would say that there isn't really, there's respect for her as a candidate, but there is, I think, I get the sense from the mayor and those around him, a focus on, we're going to run our race and we are going to do the traditional retail politics that he excels at.
Yeah. Bill, your take on, Sam says there's respect of Tammy Sawyer. There's also, there's some real tension. I
Yes,
mean,
there
there can be tension and respect at the same time. So I'm not trying to undermine what Sam said, but there can be some real tension between those two camps.
Yeah, and I think that there is something at stake here that is probably beyond who wins and loses the election, and it is that in Sawyer's vote total, whatever the outcome of the race is, Sawyer's vote total is probably going to be the best indication that we've had about how much the new generation of activism that we've seen in the last 4 to 5 years has really connected with Memphis on a broader basis. So the stakes are pretty high in this mayor's race, and you have in Sawyer and Strickland and in Harrington to a greater degree than I think I've seen in a while, 3 candidates who are pursuing a very specific and very different game plans with a high degree of discipline so far. We'll see how much that wilts in the summer heat.
And I'll ask you, Karanja, I mean, how much people ask me, and I'm a terrible political prognosticator, so if I make any predictions today, know that they are wrong. But people always ask me things, and they'll ask me about, Jim Strickland he's going to get the white vote, and then Harrington's going to, and Tammy are going to split the black vote. But I mean, is it that basic in terms of how people, your sense of how people go out and vote and say, well, I'm going to vote for the black candidate no matter what, and now I'm going to split between those two, or is it more issue driven?
Well, I mean, history is what it is in Memphis. And there's definitely been a racial pattern in terms of how people vote. There's also been evolution, but even during those times where there was a racial pattern, people were still asking the question, well, who are you, and what can you do for us? And so I think there will be that element, plus just a wave of the whole blue wave and women, where they're forcing the people to think a little bit more, a lot more, I think, about what they want from their candidates. So
yeah, we'll move on to city council real quickly, but let's do some bread and butter stuff here, Bill. Second quarter filings, we just got the financial filings. Early voting begins when?
September 13th.
Which is, and then 2 weeks of early voting, give or take.
2 weeks of early voting, and October 3rd is election day. Actually, I may have the early voting date confused with the last day to register to vote.
Okay, I'll double check that.
We'll say mid-September.
Mid-September, fair enough, we'll give you that.
And then July 18th is an important date too, right?
Yes, noon at July 18th, on July 18th is the filing deadline for all of the candidates in all of the city races.
Okay, and so again, we're moving towards the official, October 3rd is city council, city court judges, city clerk, and of course the mayor's race.
18 races on the ballot and a referendum on a sales tax hike for public safety. So a busy ballot there. You have 18 races, like I said, city council, all 3 divisions of city court clerk, and the mayor.
You mentioned this ballot. I will honestly say I did not know about. When did this ballot referendum come up? How long has this been around?
It was a petition drive that the police and fire unions mounted over a year ago to try to get the benefits restored that the city cut in 2014. They got the number of signatures required to put it on the ballot, so it's on the ballot and voters will decide.
It's a 0.5% city sales tax hike that would then go targeted towards benefit and health. Mayor Strickland came out and said he was studying it. He didn't have an opinion on it. Was that correct?
In terms of his position on it, he says that if he's reelected and this proposal is approved by the voters, that he will carry it out. Interesting, though, he says that the legal advice he's gotten is that it's not really binding on the city council and the mayor, that the city council still has to approve it, and that it will come up during the next budget season.
You're nodding.
And well, yeah, all that is consistent with what I know. And the benefits part includes affects the pension, spouses, and I guess the pre-65 health.
Pre-65 retirees being covered. These were the 3 main elements of city employee benefits that were cut by the city council 5 years ago.
And when they do that, I mean, will the language say this amount of sales tax increase for these specific benefits? Or I mean, is that what's unclear? Or is it? I mean, I don't understand how that actually works.
I don't know what the language on the ballot itself is.
Okay.
I'm at a loss on the language, but I do know that the city council has to specifically include this in the budget whether the mayor proposes it or not.
Okay.
Any revenue it would generate, right, would go to the general fund.
Right.
So like there would have to be like some sort of approval to then get it to these things.
Yeah.
To say this line item, that line item
I
in the
gotcha.
budget.
Okay.
But just for me, I'll say that I think doing it this way, kind of bringing it to the voters, is much better than the way that, say, other unions have done it in the past, putting up billboards that say, stay out of Memphis, dangerous city ahead. I think this is kind of a more efficient way to get there. That's just me.
It is interesting historically. I mean, this 2014, I mean, Jim Strickland was on the council then, voted for those cuts. Others did as well. Some would say there may have been a lot of reasons that A.C. Wharton lost his reelection bid to Jim Strickland, but he was out front and was on this show with his finance director talking about the importance of those cuts and right-sizing city spending. And it's interesting that even 5 years later, those issues are still very much front and center on the ballot. City council races, what stood out for you in terms of some of the bigger races? We've got, is the entire city council going
Yes.
out?
All 13
13 are up for election. A lot of people are termed out, not all of them, but a lot of them. What are some of the big ones that stood out?
What I saw was a trend toward multiple filings. That is, one citizen who wants to run for office who might pull petitions for all three of the super districts.
Can I officially say this makes my head explode? and not that I'm opposed to it or I think it's bad policy, but it makes it impossible to understand who's running for what. But keep going.
It does. And this has been something that we've seen in other races. You can pull multiple petitions. You can only file for one, so you have to make up your mind.
Back to the July 18th date.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And there is some calculation in this, because you look at which race is filling up. Do I have a better chance in that one? Or, well, wait, nobody's really paid any attention to this race. I think I'll get into that one. This time around, so far, we've seen a lot more people doing that, pulling multiple petitions. By my count, 19 contenders have multiple petitions out. That's out of 107 people who have pulled petitions.
Let's read the entire list, Bill. No, I'm kidding.
Sure, no problem.
Other folks on the city council races that are standing out to people.
Just a quick question to Bill. Who do we know that won't be coming back to the council? Who's term limited?
There are 3 members in the super districts who are term limited: Kemp Conrad, Reed Hedgepeth, and Joe Brown. In addition to that, there's another open seat because Jerry Curry got appointed this past January to City Council District 6. She decided that the better move for her would be to seek a full 4-year term in Super District 8, Position 1, the seat that Joe Brown is giving up.
Thank you.
Again, how much right now, I'll look at you, Sam. I mean, you're down at City Hall. Is the city council, are they in election mode in terms of how they're voting and how? I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know. Is it like what I said about Mayor? People say about Mayor Strickland that he started running for re-election right after he was elected, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, that's just kind of the way it works. Is City Council right now becoming consumed by this pending election?
I think that there are some people, for example, the people that are term limited right now, that are sort of laissez-faire and maybe not pursuing things that they otherwise would be pursuing. But then I think you also saw recently with the Waste Connection zoning vote, which was a bunch of neighborhood activists opposing the expansion or redistribution of what is essentially a waste sorting site in their backyard. And that went down. And some business-friendly members of council voted against it, and people were listening to the populist outcry. And I wonder if this is 2018 and not 2019 and 3 months away from the election, does this, which was really proposed to be a redistribution and a bettering of this place where a lot of waste is done, does that not go down in flames?
Yeah.
That just certainly seemed like upside down mode for the council.
Walk us through it for those people who hadn't followed that vote quite as closely.
There was a Whitehaven neighborhood, Waste Connections, as I said, had a waste sorting facility there. The neighbors have complained about it of rodents and smell and all these things. Waste Connection, they wanted to kind of reconfigure what they were doing there in this big project that they said was going to be better for the neighbors. So those neighbors went down to City Hall and said, we're just against this. And the company was saying, no, this is going to be good for you. It's going to take care of some of those issues. And the city council, instead of being, listening to all the things and making some decision based upon, whatever choices they made, they just sided with the neighbors in a vote. I guess it was 12-1. Worth Morgan was the only one voting against it. And it seemed like a complete reversal of what I've seen in the council in the past.
I thought it was interesting because the council discussion before the vote went along the lines of some of the council members actually talking directly to the homeowners in the area who were opposed to this. And some of the council members said, actually this is going to be better for you because it's going to move all of this to the other side of the site, further away from your homes. And but the council members in the same breath also said, but we hear what you're saying loud and clear. You don't want that. You don't trust them. So while we think it's a bad decision, we're still going to go ahead and do what you want us to do. It was a very interesting moment.
Will that proposal come back to council, just to wrap that up?
No, it could come back in another form in terms of being reconfigured or something like that, or something that wasn't in the original one, but it can't come back for 6 months in that form.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to Mayor Harris. Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris issued a veto, and maybe turn to you on this, that talk about this, and now the county commission is looking towards overriding that veto. It was of it was $1 million towards a swimming pool facility, and it was all about the Fight for 15, and that the University of Memphis as an employer not all of its employees are making a minimum $15 an hour. Mayor Harris said that he had run to fight against poverty, that this was a matter of principle, that he just couldn't let that go forward without sort of sending a message. My words, not his. Your take on that?
Well, you got the natatorium, and they asked for, I think it was $1 million. They were saying that it wasn't just for the University of Memphis, that there were provisions set up so that they could serve inner city neighborhood kids, particularly African Americans, where there's just a really high rate of people who die from swimming instances, and so they thought it was legitimate then to move for the funds. And as you said, Mr. Harris's position was say, look, I came in here with the idea that we're going to change some priorities. We're going to raise the issue relative to poverty, the priority relative to poverty. I cannot go along with this $1 million move here. And so a lot of people are saying that, yeah, we sort of understand the need to change the priorities and raise it, but is this the issue that you needed to have taken your stance on, since there were some definable benefits that were going to go to the African American community? And Mr. Turner, the commission chairperson, is saying pretty much that, and that also he's saying another key thing, and that is that it seems to me, he said, that people are like talking past each other, and that if we slow it down here, there's a way to find a medium that works.
The interesting thing about, I thought in the way the statement in articles that we all probably did from Lee Harris was that the swimming is important. He was not discounting that as something important. It's just that he just decided to make this more important. And there is a way in which, over the years that we've had him on the show, for instance, Bill, I mean, that, when he was a state senator, he was a city council person, Lee Harris does like to take votes as message sending. He does, he's less the guy who wants everything neat and tidy behind back door. This is my take. I've never heard him say this. Behind back doors. He wants to argue it out. It's almost the law, the lawyer in him and the law professor in him. He loves to come on the show and argue a point and just say no. Or say, this is what I believe in. I lost that vote. Now I'm moving on. But he doesn't want it all to be kind of seamless. He likes for there to be it seems to me, he seems to like a certain amount of tension and sending messages in the votes he takes.
I think that in his position as a state senator, when Democrats were the minority in the state Senate and Republicans were the majority, and as a county mayor, which is a pretty weak office in terms of its powers, especially when considered up against the city mayor and the city mayor's powers, I think that Harris feels like this is how he has to do it. This is how he's going to make his point, is in public. When you're the majority, you can do that behind closed doors. When you're not, you really don't have that luxury. And you're right, he very much believes in things like a veto, which is a pretty rare occurrence on both sides of the mall, that you use that to open up negotiations.
Just a comment. That is a veto of a line item in the capital improvement budget, right? Did I say that correctly? That's how he's doing that. He can't veto operating money, but he can veto capital money. With just a couple minutes left, we could talk more about that, but I want to move on to SkyCops. And you all at the Flyer, Toby, are writing about the SkyCop cameras, which have spread across the city, whether they're mounted to poles or they're the kind of temporary, people have seen them in parking lots or at events or a place where some crime is taking, and they are, for some people, want more of them. They feel they are deterrents. They help catch people, but that is not a universal opinion, and that is playing out in Cooper Young.
That's right. The Cooper Young Business Association recently announced that they want to get 7 of these cameras. 2 of them will have the ability to read license plates. Some of the neighbors there, I've talked to a bunch of different neighbors that are, they're wary of this proposition, surveillance. How is it going to look to outsiders to have all these cameras there? And so this is going to go before the council in the next meeting. And I think this whole SkyCop debate is going to be, it's going to kind of boil back up to the top. We're going to see a lot of folks that feel certain ways about this. The Sentinel program, who gets them, where do they go? All those things. I think it's going to reemerge.
You're nodding. Do you see that debate in neighborhood? I mean, because a lot of times the advocates presented is we just can't get enough of them, and we're looking for private funding to help neighborhoods in need get them as quickly as possible.
Well, it has to come back before the council. I mean, because they've got it. The Cooper Young group is providing the funds, but the council has to approve the funds. I get that part of it. But the thing that I'm curious about is that we say that some residents are opposed to. Well, how many residents actually think it's a bad idea? Did the Cooper Young Association itself decide, or was this just some neighbors? And how many? I don't know. Yeah. Because I mean, while it's hard to see that you wouldn't want the cameras. I mean, I guess I could. It does what? It's an invasion? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I've cut you off. It's a much bigger debate, and we will hopefully pick it up another time, but we are out of time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us. Join us again next week.